Hey, Damien, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So what brought you to country music?
The songs, and it's funny how that same thing that brought me to country music is what brought me to the farm. I've always been a songwriter. I love songs, and I started listening to country a little later in life. But the songs is what kind of drew me in. It's just real songs about real people, and that stuff kind of resonated with me. And so I started writing. And the same thing is what happened with the farm. We kind of started out just as songwriters, writing just to write songs, and then the next thing I knew, this band was morphed from that.
You've had a really fascinating journey with music. Like you said, you didn't really start off in country. Can you talk a little bit about your journey through music?
Yeah, I grew up, in a small town, Hickory, North Carolina. I grew up in the church playing, gospel music, and I listened to a lot of old school soul music. And so as I got older, that was kind of the first thing that resonated with me. But later in life, a little before I moved to Nashville, and as I moved to Nashville, I started listening to just some old school country music, and it had a very similar sound and blend in the songwriting style. And so I said Nashville was where I needed to be. And I ended up moving to Nashville to write music, and I was playing. I remember playing on the side of Second Avenue in Nashville, probably like a couple weeks after I got there, and I was playing some music, and this guy walks by with this cowboy hat and this handlebar mustache, and he's like, "That's some pretty good music, is that original?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he grabbed the guitar and played me some music that he had written, and he's like, "I want you to come hang out with me." Now, me and my friends, we kind of started this thing called the Music Mafia, and at the time I didn't know who it was, but it was John Rich from
Oh,
Now
wow.
Country Dude, Big and Rich, and that's kind of how I got my start in country music.
That's so great. That's awesome. You never know what'll happen, right?
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's funny because you kind of see that kind of thing on television, you never know, but that's the story and how it happened for me.
What other types of music inspire you?
All kinds of music. One of the things that the Music Mafia adopted, which is a great theme in my life, it was music without prejudice. And all kinds of music inspire me because it's an art form, and it comes from a creative place. It comes from a real place. It doesn't have these boundaries that you have to put on it. It's just what resonates with you, and that's why so many different styles of music kind of has that effect on me. And country is one of those bigger ones that did, because the stories that they told and the events about real things just happening to real common folk. So
You guys are from all over the band, The Farm. You guys are from pretty much everywhere. How did you come together?
Well, we came together in Nashville. We all live in Nashville now. Like Nick's from Minnesota, a little place called Nowlin, Minnesota, and Krista's from upstate New York, between Rochester and Batavia, and I'm from Hickory, North Carolina. We all moved to Nashville to pursue, our dreams in music, and we were all we all kind of had our own thing going. Nick had been touring for the past 12, 13 years with Kenny Chesney as his fiddle player and guitar player. And Krista had a deal on Broken Bow as a solo artist, and I was actually touring before I even connected, as I connected with the Music Mafia, I started touring with them, and then also toured some in the soul world with John Legend. So our paths were like all over the board, but we had this common love of songwriting and songs. And we kind of knew of each other by default, but we ended up getting together by mutual friends, like, hey, you guys should get together and write. So we got together around the pool one day and wrote a song that we were proud of, and and just kind of enjoyed the moment and figured maybe we'd pitch it to some other kind of group. And then that first song happened to be Home Sweet Home, which was our first single as a group, and the thing just kind of built from there, and we just continued to write and write. People was like, "Are you guys a group?" And we're like, "No, we're not." And then finally, we kind of got to the point where a lot of interest was being built, and we sat down and had kind of a meeting in the minds. And somebody said, if we're gonna do this, we got to set aside all our solo aspirations, and we got to be all in, and we got to bet the farm. And somebody said that, so that's how her name even came about, was The Farm.
Now on your website and on your album, it says The Farm, and then has incorporated at the bottom. Where did you come up with putting that at the with your name?
Well, it just kind of was a thing that was done by fault, because we kind of started out as this is going to be, our thing. We wanted to create songs together, and then the was kind of something that came about because it was like uh, when we first, when you first say the name of the farm, it's such a big and broad thing, and just it's kind of more of a marketing thing that helped us be able to kind of set ourselves above like a farm that you would live and grow up on, or a community called the farm, and there was so many different things the farm out there. So we didn't, we had no idea that this would turn into an actual group. So
yeah. You talked about your song Home Sweet Home. What is that song really about? What really drives that song?
Well, the thing that drove that song was actually the same thing that brought us all together. When we first got together, like I said, we didn't even really know each other. We knew of each other. I knew who Nick was by what he did, and I heard of Krista, and we had actually written a couple times before for her solo project, but we really didn't know each other. So like when you get together as writers in a room, a lot of times it turns into like a therapy session. So you kind of just start, it's like a get to know you type thing. We sit and talk about what we're from and what we're about and those kind of things. And our common ground is that we found out real quick that we all had really strong pride in our roots and where we came from. And so we felt like that, that was just the first place to start, and we started writing about that. And so it's all about, being caught up in the bustle of life and being in this business and always on the go, but, missing sometimes the more simple things in life of just being back home where you're from and your family and your friends and mama's home cooking and that kind of thing. And that's kind of how Home Sweet Home was fun.
Your album only came out a few months ago now. It came out back in July. How has it been since then?
It's been a whirlwind. We literally have been nonstop since that time, and just visiting radio, meeting people, playing shows, and doing all kinds of things just to kind of promote and push our music. But it's definitely been a dream come true. If you would have asked me, years back, would I ever imagine being able to play the Grand Ole Opry? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just like things like that has happened along the way. Just like it's been so surreal, and it's just definitely been like a roller coaster ride, and it just keeps getting faster and higher. So we're super excited about that.
How did you celebrate your album release?
Well, we all kind of did it together jointly, and then we all kind of did it in our separate ways. I think each one of us are so so focused and so determined on making this as big as we can, that we literally had to sit down and say, hey, all right, let's stop and smell the roses. Our manager is really good about pointing those things out to us, because we've been we're new to this this group thing, but we've all been at it over 10 years apiece, and it's always been something we've been driven to do. And so we really had to take the time and say, okay, let's set aside a time to celebrate. So we all kind of went out and just had a night of celebration, dinner, and just to focus on, hey, look what we accomplished. But now we're right back to work.
Yeah, you got to get that next album out, right?
yeah, you got to keep it going. So but it's a good problem to have.
Yeah. Besides your own album, what album out right now is your favorite?
Oh, okay. Wow, there's so many. I'm a big Kip Moore fan right now, and his album is one of my favorites. Lee Brice's new album is also another one of my favorites. I even have a lot of friends. I got a lot of friends who were indie artists, which I did for a long time, and I listen to their albums. My friend Darnell Levine has a new indie album out. My friend Tyrone Character has a new indie album out. So there's a lot of albums that I'm listening to simultaneously. Even the new John Mayer has an album out, Born and Raised, and it's just so many different. I'm always listening to all kinds of music and just new. I love new stuff, so I'm always looking for the new thing, and not necessarily always the mainstream new stuff. There's so much music out there, and it's so many ways you can get to it now, which is a real cool thing.
It's so funny you brought up Lee Brice, because almost every person I ask this question to mentions Lee Brice's album, and it's a great album. I'm not saying it's not a great album. It's just so funny how popular it is down in Nashville too, that so many people love that album.
Yeah, it's just I really do, and it was funny because Nick and I, we were riding back from a show one day, and we had just got the album, and we popped it in and listened to it all the way through. And it's one of those albums that you can listen all the way through to, and I get excited about that because this is such a single-driven world now. It's just like a true album that you can just pop in and listen through all the way is cool for me. I always enjoy that, and his album is one of those albums. So.
Yeah. What artist, if you can have your choice of any artist, any genre even, would you like to collaborate with?
All my life, I've always wanted to collaborate with Stevie Wonder. I'm a huge Stevie Wonder fan, and I grew up listening to that style of music, and so he's still a living legend for me. And if there was somebody in the country world that I could collaborate with now, I would love, even though he's gone, I would have loved to do some stuff with Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash fan as well.
Oh, he's a legend. You can't deny that one.
Yeah.
What song on your iPod right now do you have on repeat constantly?
Well, there's a song called "Can I Come By." It's actually by a good friend of mine. Like I said, Darnell Levine. He's an indie artist. It's kind of a Bobby McFerrin type artist. He does a lot of mouth percussive type stuff and all kinds of weirdness. But he has a song called "Can I Come By" that's constantly on repeat in my iPod.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It grabs me.
So what's next for The Farm?
The Farm. Well, we have a new single out, which is "Be Grateful," and we're super excited about just pushing that. And we just feel like it's just a perfect song for the times. It's actually one of the few songs on our album that we did not write. Rodney Clausen and Mark Beach, and good friends of ours, wrote that song. And when we first heard it, it was just like, man, this is like, we wish we wrote it. And anytime we come across a song like that, we're like, all right, we need to cut it, because there's so many great songwriters here in Nashville. There's so many great songwriters everywhere, but here in Nashville, so many great songwriters who are not necessarily artists, and those songs won't be heard unless people like us, cut it. And "Be Grateful" is definitely one of those songs that needs to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our next single. So it's out now, and we're pushing that, and now we're back out on the road. This has been our week actually of being off the road, which has been cool, but we're ready to get back on the road and play these shows and share that music.
How can your fans find you online?
TheFarmMusic.com. That's our site, but from there, there's a link to our Facebook, which we are always on, our Twitter, which we are always on. We're constantly we're social media junkies, so we're always on that stuff. And anytime we're riding together or on the road, we're constantly tweeting back and forth with fans and updating our Facebook and site. So
it gets addicting.
Where to find us? Yeah, it is, and it's fun. We enjoy that kind of thing. So
I just want to thank you so much for taking time out and talking with us today.
No problem. Thanks for having us on. We're excited about just everything that's going on, and thanks for what you do for allowing us to get our music out to people.
Oh, it's no problem. It's my pleasure.
Hi, I'm Damien Horne from The Farm, and you are listening to ChuckWagon Radio.